Thank you. When Marie mentioned the Janesville Library, I don't know if any of you had seen our display, our club's display in the showcase last month down at the main library. But there's a beautiful carvings brought in by several people. But and hopefully we'll be able to have that again in the future. To start out, if you have any questions, shout them out, because with both Mike and I, we probably don't know what we're going to be saying, so you won't interrupt the flow of our presentation anyhow. So feel free to just shout them out, and all this stuff can be handled. We aren't that anal over our carvings, but for style, I mean, we didn't bring a tremendous amount. I mean, there's so many things that you can do with wood and wood carving. It'd be chip carving, relief carving. All of what you see up here is considered carving in the round. But with relief, you're carving into a flat board. So there's so many ways of working with wood, and most of the time we work with basswood. It's easy to carve. It takes detail very well, as you can see, and you can just really, this is just a scrap piece of wood that you pass these around. That it was. I start out by band sawing, taking off as much wood as we can, and stuff like this winds up on the floor next to the bandsaw, and you look down and you think, golly, that looks like something we might like to carve. It's something. You
usually have a lot of pieces of wood laying around.
Yeah. Here is, and look at the backside. There's an elephant.
And
a face on one side. And you've heard of coonskin cap?
Yeah.
Well, there's an elephant cap. And we also, for anyone interested in carving, we carve at the Janesville Senior Center on Mondays and Thursdays from 9 o'clock until 11:30, depend when we break up. But we have knives down there. We have cutouts down there, and so we can easily get you right into carving. The other thing, the other thing that we have knives. We have knives, and we have protective gloves for you. The glove goes on the hand that's holding your workpiece.
That's good.
Yeah, because
The opening cans.
and they are
you want to make sure.
they are not expensive, but a good carving knife will cost between $20 and $25. And probably the glove will be about as expensive as the knife. These are Kevlar gloves. They have stainless steel wire that are running through them. You can poke through the glove, but you can't cut. You won't be able to cut your. And if you do put enough power to get through the glove, you really need a lot of power.
Yeah.
More power than
And
you
sharpen
need
your-
to do a decent carve.
And sharpen your blade.
How do you sharpen those knives? Will you teach that?
Okay, yeah. I was just going to say, this piece happens to be a piece of leather that has holes in it, but this is a piece of leather. It's impregnated with powder, an abrasive powder. And so to tune our knives, we just take a couple of strokes. These are very easy, you know, a piece of leather and a block of wood. We also have some down there to use, but to make them up, it's very simple. And that really will do what is required for the knife, just to draw that edge. You lay the knife flat and just, you don't need a lot of pressure. It's just.
But you see, as it goes, it gets darker and darker. You can see that's the metal rubbing off of the knife.
Thank you.
Right. Yes. Yes. The metal. Yeah. You are removing.
If you look at
Metal
this,
with.
this is one you can get from.
A store.
Oh, yeah, that's
That's so light too.
that's just you can pass it around. You can see the black on it. That's from stropping your knives.
Yes, that's a strop that's made by a
Flex Cut.
Flex Cut company that they sell tools, and they also make the strops to sharpen their tools. So it's just yes.
I can understand that the leather impregnated with a fine powder that can actually take down metal
Right.
makes sense.
No,
I've often seen, when I grew up,
Yeah.
we had barbers who had strops.
right.
And they looked at me like they were just leather. Can just leather do that as well? Because those older barbers, I don't remember them ever putting any.
Well, they probably not when you were there. But
Okay, all right, that makes sense. I was small.
Okay, just for the filming here, the question was barbers and stropping razors. The barbers used whetstones,
Okay,
and what they would do, they put the edge, and that's all we're doing with this strop, is putting the edge on. And that's what the barber did, was put, but when what you didn't see was the barber had a whetstone in a drawer on a counter that they went back and forth.
yeah, that's cool.
Yes, yes.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yep. So,
Solve the mystery.
so with that question, there are times when you do need a stone to be more aggressive when you're putting an edge on a tool. For instance, if the tool happens to drop on a floor, if it happens, something would happen where it'd get a nick in it, yes. Then you would have to use a stone to be more aggressive and take that out.
Yeah, doing stuff like cottonwood bark, stuff like that, where there's a good chance of getting sand or dirt or something in the bark, you can nick or put a gouge in your tool from that, and then you have to be more aggressive with the sharpening.
Yeah, if you're carving, because you can carve any kind of wood, but we use
carve golf balls.
we use basswood because it's readily available to us here in Wisconsin, and it carves well. It holds detail, but you can carve. Well, like I said, any kind of wood. Oak is grainy, and so the detail, it's hard to put the detail in it. But yes, I mean, there's a golf ball. I mean, you can carve rubber.
That's fascinating.
And carving, you know, if you get down to the senior center, or if you just kind of look at Mike and I, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. This is not. There's only 3 cuts that you need to know. The first, and when you think about taking off wood with a knife, think about a tomato on a cutting board. If you push right down on it, the tomato's going to squish all over the board. If you slice through the tomato, the slice is going to fall. Wood is the same way. If you can, like you see Whittlers sitting on the porch, taking long stringy chips off, but when we carve, you're holding the knife, and we use the thumb for leverage, and we slice. We slice. We slice. And it's just this slicing cut. We're not, most of us, there are some that get very aggressive, but with most of us, this is the size of the chip. And it's controlled. You want to be in control of the knife. You don't want the knife to be in control of you.
Right.
And so when you are taking small slices, and surprisingly enough, you can just small slices, and you can just take this down. I mean, it's just a slice. So this is one cut. The other cut, they can be purchased, or they can be made like this one is out of tape. The other cut would be one like the peeling a potato. The peeling cut, and you're cutting towards, and you're stopping on the protection of your thumb. But it's the same cut. You are slicing. You don't pull it straight. You slice through.
Use your hand, not your arm.
You're
not pulling your arm back. You're
using your wrist to slice through. It's like I said, so many people come and think, well, they have to take great big chunks of wood off. Well, it's not necessary. You can accomplish just so much with just just little nibbles. Nibble, nibble. The other cut is a stop cut. You score the wood and your knife stops. I'll score the wood and your knife, you can hear it click. It stops on that stop cut. And that's the third cut. So,
I mean, there's variations of those, but depending on what you're doing, but that's the basic movements, the basic way of cutting.
so now you can see, now you can pass these same things around and you can see, where is that stop cut? There are all of these were made with just a knife. And you can see where those stop cuts, we use them a lot. When we're doing these any of these faces, you can see around the hairline. You can see around where his shirt goes around, and that necktie. They're all, once you get a piece blocked in, and
That's great.
and they are where things are where you want them to be, then a lot of that is just these stop cuts. Now, once you have gotten into this and are comfortable with the knife, there are other tools that can be added, and they're going to be added by what the type of carving that you're doing, and the tool that's going to be required to get that done. This is a V tool. It's very sharp, so pass it around handle to handle. This is what we call a gouge, and they come in all different shapes.
Right, that's what I was going to say. You can tell this is called a palm tool because that knob fits right in the palm of your hand.
Yeah.
So you can push with your palm. Where
On this
we
tool.
have
You're always pushing away.
You're pushing, yes, you're pushing away from your body, yes. Coming
I
towards
didn't
your
bring
body, if it weren't biting into the wood and slid along the wood, or a lot of people get cut.
The wood then.
A lot of people get
yeah,
cut in
red.
in the wrist area using tools without a glove on, using tools like this because they're carving towards themselves. Yes. You just have to be aware of where the tool is at. But there are. I'm just showing you a couple of these, just to let you know that there are those.
This is a gouge, but this is a different kind of handle. This is a straight handle for. Yes.
How do you sharpen a gouge?
Basically the same way, except what did I do with that?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Yeah, you can do it this way, you know, and just, and then you have one on this side to do this. But this is made by Flex Cut for their, because they sell a whole line of gouges like
So
this.
custom fits.
Yeah, so that they're, well, there, you'd have to go to that one. But that's, and then you can do this too.
Or, now,
Or,
yeah, yeah.
you just
And,
turn your hand on a
you know, a
flat
lot
one.
of times, you know, with age, you know, our wrists don't get, you know, something like this is not, but if you have something with a, you know, that really takes a lot of movement, then yes, then it's going to be a little more difficult.
There's one outfit out there that'll take a dowel. You can see how this is wrapped around the, well, they'll take a dowel and they'll wrap it right around the dowel. And that way they'll use the dowel. You can
Like a
do the,
file.
yeah, you can actually strap this way, or you can, you know.
Cool.
But that's usually on bigger tools than this.
If you don't mind my asking, how long have you gentlemen been doing this kind of work?
Well, we got here at 10:30.
Yeah, I'm impressed how fast you got those moving.
No, I've been doing it about 20 years.
What got you into it?
Huh?
What got you into it?
Well, in my particular case, my wife signed up for a beginning carving class at Blackhawk, and she decided to take a computer class, and she said, "Here, take my place in this carving class," and that's where I started to carve.
Yeah, that's fun. Mike, how about you?
I worked with a guy when I first started working in a factory who carved.
Okay.
And he got me interested in it. And I played around with it for a few years, but never really seriously until 2005. We moved to Janesville. And then my brother-in-law goes, "Well, I hear there's a show." So I went to the show for the club. I passed out some.
Oh, you passed them
Yeah.
out, yeah, yeah. We have our
And,
annual show.
That's what got me started with the club, but I'd played around with it before. But being in the club,
Yeah.
you know, people like Jim, you know, and Ernie and all those, they're so helpful. You know, you're sitting there carving together and you got a little problem and you talk to them and they can show you how they get around that problem. And then right now on the internet, just Google wood carving, and you'll get hundreds and hundreds of videos and websites. And
Ma'am, I'm not trying to take up your time, but what's the difference between whittling and carving? Because I had a buddy who was a forest ranger, and he was whittling all the time, he said. He was up in the towers,
Yeah.
towers and stuff.
well,
Is it just
it's
function?
basically the same, but some people say if you're just, you know, usually carving we have something in sight that we want to make,
Yeah.
or we want to,
Something and then decide what it looked like.
Right.
As opposed to finding a piece of wood and taking it down sliver by sliver until nothing is left. You know, we try to leave something that would represent something.
I call them pencils.
Yeah, but
Inserting graphite was hard.
but this question comes up a lot. You know, people wonder. What do you do different than just whittling? And I think that's it. Rather than just using up a stick until it's gone and have a pile of chips at your feet, well, you just leave something in that stick that'll represent something.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
And oftentimes the question is, where do you get your ideas from? Where did this? Well, there are books out there, and now, since the pandemic, so many people are putting online, either you pay for them or they come across just free, but some charge, and some are just sharing what they do with people. So, and that has taken over so much. There are classes, there are people that go around and teach different styles of wood carving. Magazines that you can get step-by-step books that have step-by-step carving instructions. Yeah.
I was wondering, when you're talking about this, have you taken a look at the library's collection? What I want to suggest is, would you take a look at the library's collection of wood carving materials? Because we might have DVDs in that also, and maybe give some recommendations of any holes that are missing, so that we can have kind of a well-rounded collection.
Yeah, there are books
Yes.
in the library.
Yes, there are. I'm sure there are.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
and
I've
you've
checked a few
also, the library has also sold a number of those books, and I think they did because they were not used.
Right.
Unfortunately, sometimes.
Right.
Yes.
Or if we get new ones in, I mean, we're not going to build a new story onto the library, so that means as new things come in, sometimes old things have to go out. So between the two, but yes, check the ground floor, because you can get some really great bargains there.
Well, I have found carving books, or books related to carving, in the first floor where.
The coffee shop.
The coffee shop where they are for sale. Yes,
Yes.
I have seen books down there, and yes, the library does have books on
Yeah,
carving.
they have a decent section. I
Oh,
mean,
good,
it's.
good. I'm glad to hear that. That's good.
I've checked out a few.
And I'm also curious, where do you buy your tools? I know there's a place up in Madison, is it called Woodcrafters?
Yes.
Yes.
And they sell some of this stuff?
There is a store on between Beloit and Broadhead on Highway 81.
Oh, really?
Yes, and they have everything.
What's it called?
It's Cherry Tree.
The sign in front is cherry.
Cherry Tree.
And
The sign out in
Yeah.
the road. But they have, yes, they have all that you would need, carving knives as well as gouges. They have books that you can purchase on carving. Now, this stick, and again, you can pass this around. A lot of times carvers they'll carve a stick like this, which is called a study stick, and it's step by step on carving a face. And they will carve these, they will cast them, and they will sell these sticks that you can use as a reference for carving. This one is one that I carved, and
Not so good.
and this one was carved because I held a class on step-by-step carving a face, and doing it this way, people have something that they can refer to, and they can also just, with any stick, just practice, continually practice, because that's where it comes from, is just practicing.
And that's pretty much what Mike has there, only he has separate pieces, right?
Right.
Right, this is a
yeah.
step-by-step for the simple Santa.
That's brilliant. You get it in 3 dimensions. You
Right.
can see it and feel it and take it step by. That's really so cool. Being able to do those studies, that's really cool.
And there again, like you said, you can buy
Yes, I mean
different
there are
carvers
people
have done it.
that make specifically, study sticks on carving. Sometimes you can buy for carving animals, for carving fish. This is kind of a this is just silliness, but I had done a number of these cutouts because I was carving this particular fish, and when I do a class, I oftentimes do them in stages, so people taking the class can move along, and also if somebody messes up, you can just hand them a piece and they stay up with the class. But this happened to be laying on the bench, and I put a bird's wing in the fish, and it kind of silliness, but
Like the elephant.
hey, it's like the elephant. Yeah, it's like the elephant behind here. It was just wood that was laying around.
Just a sense of humor.
I mean, it's either carving hair in the back of the fella or carve an elephant. That's, sometimes it's just, it's just puttering around. And, call that piece evolution. I don't know whether it's a fish coming out or a bird going in. But I think we just want to impress upon you that it doesn't take a lot of work, and it doesn't take a lot of machinery. You can do so much with just a sharp knife, and you may want to, may want to accomplish a lot more, which may require getting some more tools, but it really isn't necessary. You can have a lot of fun just coming up with just producing, silly little things like this was just done with a knife, just a little monk carrying a barrel. Friar Tuck.
When you talk about cherry tree visits
Yeah.
to the place and so forth and studies, I have no idea how wide the scope of studies are that are available or that one can follow. But like if you're interested in how to do hands, for example, do they have studies on how to do
Yes.
hands?
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Wow.
Yes.
Because that's an interest I have. So.
Yes. They're, especially human faces. This is broken down by a lot of people. There's books specifically on doing ears and doing doing different parts, because I think with most of us, we hate to stare, but faces are interesting, and so with so many of us, we carve faces, and yes, there are books, as well as on the hands. Yep, and when you get to doing people, pass through the fish, or birds or mammals, you can get you can get into specialized tools when you start doing some of those things. But in most cases, what we do is we do it with a knife. I do fish, I do mammals, I do birds.
And
But-
both at the same time.
But yeah, at the same time. But oftentimes, if you're doing a bird and you're counting feathers and things like this, it's too intense to do with sitting around in a group. You get into your own world and you do that. But no, I mean, we just wander around, and it's even if you did have a set of tools, the tools that are in here is what I would use mainly for carving faces. But this really doesn't take up much room to travel with tools, and obviously it doesn't take any. You can put the cover on the knife, and you can put the knife in the glove, and the finger tab in the glove, and you can do a lot of work. Yep.
It's a whole new world.
Yeah, it's a whole new world. Yes.
It's kind of a portable art/craft. I mean, you
It
can
is.
take it with
It is.
you.
It's very portable. Now, I'm going to be going next week to Maquoketa, Iowa. It's between Dubuque and Davenport, Iowa. And I'm going to be going there, and I'm going to be carving for a week. And I'm going to be doing a full-size human bust.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of classes that are
Yeah.
around.
And
We're
this
we're
will-
trying to get a few going out to Hummel or
right
Cherry
out there
Tree
at
again.
Cherry Tree.
So we can
Uh,
get, they did a few before COVID, but
Yeah.
they haven't brought it back after COVID.
This was a class that I did
Yes.
out at Cherry Tree was carving this. But hopefully, now that things have settled down, we can get into doing more classes out there.
That's just to say you don't have to travel long ways, like he's going to Iowa. But,
Yep.
I mean, they're all over the country. There's
Didn't somebody
Classes.
do a class on carving spoons here in Rock County anyway? It's probably, it very well could have been before the pandemic. So.
Right. Yes, it was. Yeah, our club here in Janesville.
Okay.
Individual members have done classes here in Janesville. So we also go out and do the merit badge for Boy Scouts,
and
things like that.
we meet twice a month at the First Lutheran Church in the evenings for people who aren't available during the day.
Yeah.
And any of them, you come down to the senior center, go to the Lutheran Church,
Which Lutheran church?
the First
First.
Lutheran
Oh,
up
the
on,
first,
yeah,
the big
Out by the
the big one, yes,
fairgrounds.
right, across.
Yep. Yeah, there's still some people working. Imagine
Yeah.
that.
Well, we started that when I was joined the club. I was still working. I mean, I've only been retired now almost 2 years. So that was kind of they said they had done it before. So for me and other people like me, they were going to start again to, see how many people were interested. And we've actually had pretty good crew. I mean, I taught a beginning class on this. In fact, this is from that class, right? It's carving this guy. And I don't know, Jim did one at that, but if he's there, just ask him a question and he'll show you what he knows.
And people bring projects, and that's what's nice about the senior center.
Right.
Because we don't all carve the same thing. I mean, it's, so you can, just come and kibitz
Oh,
if
yeah,
you
we
want
have-
to, and if there's something that, that sparks you, just holler out.
We have one guy that wood burns and does chip carving.
Yeah,
He's very good.
yeah. He does pieces on flat boards,
and he
and
does the
wood
wooden
burns,
plates.
Excellent wood burner. So, so that's.
So, I mean, there's so many different forms. We have a couple that do some relief carving, like Rosie does some relief carving, and pyrography. She does a lot of wood burning. And then we have people like Jim that do a lot in the round, does a lot of cottonwood bark, which is another thing that'll get you addicted.
Yes, I do. I'm going to say gnome homes, but out of cottonwood bark, do these. They're. Yeah, they're
Fantasy buildings.
yeah, they're fantasy type buildings. You have to think the person that's making this doesn't have a level, doesn't have a square, and you can't make a mistake because nobody knows what it's supposed to look like. So there's no
Yeah.
mistakes. But cottonwood bark is a very forgiving wood to carve out of also. Just the bark off the tree.
Now, we haven't done much cottonwood itself around here, but when I was in Montana, they use that instead of basswood.
Yep.
There are, not all of them, but some of them do.
Yep. Yeah, they'll carve things like this out of cottonwood bark. Just the bark.
Well, they'll carve it out of the wood too.
Oh
out
yes,
there,
they do, but
because it's a softer wood. It's not as hard.
And the
Dip-
bark must be awful thick. I didn't
depending
It-
on the climate, cottonwood trees grow all over the world. Depending on the climate, the thicker the bark. So when you get into British Columbia, the bark can be 10 inches thick.
You get up into the mountainous areas,
Yep.
even in
higher elevations.
even
the
in
bark gets
Colorado
very
and
thick.
Montana and Idaho, you get 4 or 5 inch bark.
The cottonwood tree that grows along the Rock River here in Rock County, that'll get 3. Sometimes you can find 4 inches thick, but it'll get up to 3 inches thick.
Do you harvest and cut a piece out of it? Or
The cottonwood
No.
tree when it
When it dies,
Dies.
then it after a year or so it starts to peel away.
yep. We
You don't want to try to take it off.
No.
I had a guy try to give me
No.
some that he tore off a tree, and
Now the tree
the
just
tree
doesn't
that
want to
they
give up
fresh
that
cut,
bark.
It was a
After
fresh
it
cut tree.
dies, then it starts to, couple of years it starts to
To loosen
separate
up, yes.
and starts peeling off, and that's when we harvest it.
Yeah, you don't take it
Yep.
off a live tree.
Yeah, good.
Do you do this every year, have an introductory class like this to make
Well-
people aware, or several times a year?
Whenever
This-
we're asked, we'll do it. We'll do it for, for different groups.
Well, we did the fish up in Monroe.
Oh no,
not
no.
Monroe,
We did a class
in-
at the gathering place in Milton
Milton, right.
for their fish club. And they made these, we had them making, we did the cutouts and supplied the knives and the gloves, and they carved this little fish, and then we later had a painting class for, it's kind of like what
Like a keychain, like a small keychain about so long.
yeah. We
Should've-
made
should've brought
keychains
one.
out of them. You could actually put hooks on them and have fished with them if you wanted to, but we just did it as keychains.
That's fine.
So yeah, that kind of thing. We do. Yeah.
Well, you've answered pretty much all the questions.
Do all
I
the
didn't even
people,
have.
oh, sorry, do all the people at your show, demonstrate while they're selling? You know, at the orange sheet show?
No. Our show is usually not people sitting around carving.
We have-
We do some carving, and we do some classes.
We do have. I think there's going to be 4 of us putting on throughout the day, putting on
Right. Different demonstrations. and
demonstrations. I'm going to do one on. I'm going to do one on bark carving.
classes.
I
And
don't
Randy
know.
usually does one on his twirlies, which
Yeah.
is a ornament.
yes.
About, you know.
Yes, there will be at the show. There will be, and people can sell if they want to. There's a lot of people that just want to,
Oh, it's just there to show.
huh?
A lot of people just show their work.
A lot
Well,
of
we
people
show,
just
yeah,
show it. Yeah.
Right. Some people just
Yeah.
show, some people sell.
Yep.
Some people just like to talk to people as they come by, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
orange piece of
Yeah.
paper.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It seems like most of us are not very shy. We do, you know.
Well, you have knives. No,
There you go. There you go.
Whatever you
When you
say.
play with knives, you get a lot of respect.
that's so cool. That's cool.
Okay.
This is great.
How expensive are the tools, or how expensive are the supplies once you bought the tools?
The best place to buy wood would be to come to our show. Because we have wood supplier that comes, and that's usually the most inexpensive
Yeah.
carving wood you can get. You know, he carries a lot of basswood, some butternut, maybe some cottonwood bark, depends on, you know, what he has. But that's usually the cheapest place. You can get it online. You know, there's places online selling it. Some of that you have to watch because it might not always be what they're selling it as. Some of it can be pretty hard. You can get it out to Cherry Tree. They sell.
They sell wood out there as well as the tools.
Madison
Yes.
at Woodcraft, they sell.
Yep.
If you know, was it Gimpler's
Oh, Depler's.
Depler's.
Over in Monroe.
in Monroe? They sell.
They
a lot of-
they carry basswood and some butternut. Yes, but like I said, we're very fortunate because we have.
I have butternut.
some of the
I
best-
have a basswood tree sitting in my front yard.
Yeah, we have some of the best basswood
Yeah, still.
in the
My wife
in
would
the
shoot me.
country is right here where we're at.
Yeah, Minnesota, Michigan, this whole area.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it does bring up that I would think that a side learning that you go through is about the different kinds of woods themselves and where they come from and how they grow.
Well-
That's an
Well,
incidental learning.
some, yeah.
Yes, and there's a lot of people will come in to, like, say down the senior center and say, you know, I carved out of, you know, this and you know, I really don't like it, you know, willow or you know or birch or something like this, you know, and I like it or I don't like it, but most of us,
But now,
if
and
you
that,
get the results out of what you have, you probably aren't experimenting a whole lot.
but in this area, we have good basswood, and
Yeah,
you know,
best in the world.
and
Yeah.
people down like Georgia and down south, they use a lot of Tupelo
Yep.
because it's a nice, fine grained, softer wood.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a little harder than basswood.
And basswood is linden. It grows all over the
yeah.
world.
American linden.
In America we call it basswood. In Europe they call it linden. And in Europe, It's especially
They
England.
call it lime wood too.
They call it, yeah, they call it lime wood in, but the English, they have different words for stuff anyhow. But they call it lime wood, and it's denser than this.
I mean, yeah, it's the same kind, but
It's the same kind, but it's
a different species, yeah, or different
the grain.
subspecies or whatever you call
The
it.
grain structure is tighter on linden, on what they call lime wood, but it's still just linden.
You know, so it varies by area, geographical areas of the country even, as to what people will carve. Although there's enough basswood being shipped all over that they can go out and buy it from a store or buy it online, have it shipped to them.
So what you're saying is that we were all very smart to live in Wisconsin. That's cool.
Well, I moved here. I got out of Illinois.
I got the names.
Yeah.
We different.
Are there any woods that would really be, that you would not use?
Well, I wouldn't carve an oak.
Well, yeah,
I wouldn't
it's
try
very
to
hard.
carve something like this in oak because it's grainy and it splinters. And so, you know, you'd really.
Yeah, you can't get the detail into your carving.
And the other thing is when you take a tool like this, if you were carving in a really hard wood, you'd have to change the angle. You'd have to redress your tools. And then to go back to basswood, you'd have to redress them.
Okay, what does redress mean?
The angle
Changing
of
the angle
of the bevel.
of the tool.
Which is,
15 degrees.
Yeah,
yeah, I was gonna say.
roughly 15.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about 50. So you would want to make that angle steeper to carve a harder wood. Yeah.
So the best wood for beginners is basswood.
Oh yeah. Oh
Well,
yes.
Even us that have been doing it a while, it's basswood. It's
Wait.
hard.
Yeah, you got hard maple and soft maple. Soft maple is very nice. But yeah, hard maple, then you have to start dealing with the tools.
Right,
But
and then
it's again a closer grain, it's not like oak,
Right.
right?
Right. Yep.
right,
Close
and
grain.
with that, you'll see a lot of people even rough it out with power tools, get it to the shape you want, and then go in with your knives and just do the detail work.
What do you do with your carvings when you realize that you've done several hundred maybe over many years and you're kind of figuring out where do I put them?
See that tub? You see that tub?
House in the basement.
They're stacked in the basement.
Yeah.
That's
Same
fine.
thing you do with paintings when you have.
Yeah.
Well,
your
well, you-
hobbies get
Wheelchairs
stacked.
have the same issue.
Yeah, you give them
Yeah.
this
We have closets. filled
Christmas
with them.
presents, birthday presents to family members and friends, and
That's fun.
Now, I've.
yes, sir.
Yes.
So this bust you're going to do in Iowa, what kind of wood will you be using?
Butternut. Butternut.
Yeah,
Yes.
butternut's a little harder.
Full size?
It'll be almost. I probably won't do a full size face. I'll probably do. Yeah, I'll probably do a face. Yes, and this butternut will be, I'm going to say freshly cut. So it will, we'll keep it covered all the time so it doesn't dry out. We'll put plastic bags over it when we're not carving.
So it's easier to cut.
Right, wet, green, they call it greenwood.
Yeah,
When it's
carving
wet.
green wood is great. Yep.
And you'll see a lot of spoon carvers, bowl carvers will only do green wood.
So
They'll shape it right down, after they dry it, they might have to go back and do a little touch up here and there. But most of the work is done while it's green because it gets so hard.
So it doesn't split when it dries.
Of that too, you wanna, that's where you learn how a tree grows. You know, if you have a log and you're carving it around the log, that's gonna split. It's almost guaranteed it'll split. But if you cut that in half right at the pith, which is the very center of it, it relieves all the stresses. And that's how you get wood that's not gonna split on you. That's why you'll see bowls made out of half a log.
And you can hollow them out.
Right,
You can hollow a piece out which takes the pressure
right.
away
That
from
would
it
help
and
too.
keeps it from splitting. But all wood as it dries is gonna want to split, especially when you're doing something big like that. So you just learn to put wedges in it and repair it.
Do you ever oil it when it's done? So
There's a lot of different. These have been finished with acrylic paint, but there's so many ways of finishing. Like butternut looks really, the grain drains the grain out by using an oil. But there are a number of those. There's one very good product that you can get at Menards or any, but it's an oil, and there's also wax.
Howard's feeding away.
Yeah, Howard makes it, and that does a very good job of sealing.
Yeah. They use,
Sealing the grain, and you can polish them.
It's beeswax, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a beeswax, and there's citrus and oils in there. Yes, and you put that on, especially wood that's got a great grain to it, and you
Right,
can
it'll stand out better.
yeah, you can bring that grain out and make it look so nice. Yep. Yeah, there's so many ways that you can finish wood, just like woodworking. A lot of us with these things, we just paint them with
Acrylics.
acrylic paint and seal them up, and
Painting is a whole nother
Yeah.
thing to get into.
Yeah.
There's so many ways of doing it.
So it's a never-ending hobby.
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah,
You're always learning. I mean, every project gives you something different. You learn a new step or how to do this over what you were doing before. And it's
I was
just,
thinking when you were talking about the difference between a whittler and a woodcarver, a whittler can just imagine, it's so stress-free. You just get to whittle away. But now there's stress involved because you've got to get the eye just right.
well, the best thing to do, and it's kind of a joke, but never tell anybody what you're making until you're done.
I don't even tell myself.
That way, whatever you end up with, yeah, that's what I wanted,
That's fun. That's fun.
and if somebody comes up and says, "Here's a picture of my grandson," can you do it? Don't do that. Don't do that. That never works because you can
Unless
never.
you're Alec Lacasse.
What they
you
have
don't-
in their
you don't do
mind,
that.
you can never duplicate. Yes.
Do you both paint?
Oh,
I paint some of my stuff. I learned from him.
yeah. When you're doing realistic wildlife, then you have to. Yep. That takes, it takes a lot of.
And that's like the different things you can do. Like this is just caricatures and, that you can do whatever. But when you get into, like he's saying, realistic animals and birds and stuff, that's a whole nother, the feathers has to be just the right way. The colors for this bird are a little different than the colors on this bird. And, So it can get very involved when you get into that.
Find it calming?
Carving, yes. I don't do birds and, but I haven't yet done birds, put it that way.
Yeah, you do.
I'm
kinda
working
get-
on faces.
You do get lost in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you can-
You just
you
go
can
into
sit
the
there-
basement and get lost.
Like at the senior center, we can carve for a couple hours, look up and, oh, geez, it's time to clean up,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. And
not
when
even
you're-
realize.
when you're doing a face, you know, I mean, there it is. You can communicate with it.
You can relate.
Walter Mandel.
That's a good guess.
So,
Any
guess our
other
time here is
questions or? Yes,
thank you so much.
either.
Do you always have an idea before you start? I see
Boy.
there's pencil marks on the fish on the
Pet-
back side.
Hey, pencils are your best friend.
Okay.
Yes.
Because
Pencil it in first.
you
and
have
it-
erasers
if you don't
and
like
you can
it-
just cut it off.
That you can take off. You take a cut, you can't. Then you're committed. But hey, very good questions too. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Yeah.
This can't be done without
Yeah.
questions. All right. Very
And we
good.
Thank you for coming and enlightening us in this. I think this is so fascinating, so, and thank you all for coming.
You're welcome. We appreciate it.
Yes.